I'm Andy Harter. I'm the founder and CEO of RealVNC. It's a company we started in 2002. But actually the history goes a little bit further back than that. I was responsible for VNC, which is the name of a remote access software product that we first devised in 1995, nearly 20 years ago. And then we actually made it freely available to the world in 1998. And that's one of the early examples of an open source initiative and giving it away and people using it on great scale. And we did it quite consciously to create an ecosystem and really in many ways helped to create the remote access market. There were very few other remote access products around at the time. We weren't sure whether people would even find it. I mean, it was before Google was really popular. And so how did people find things on the internet in those early days? But we were just staggered by the end of the first week there were thousands, and then it was hundreds of thousands, and then very quickly it was millions of people downloading and using this very simple remote access tool that let one computer take over another one. We'd done this work in the context of a research lab that had been funded by AT&T, and that closed down in Cambridge. And what we decided to do at that point was to start a company to commercialize around the VNC standard that we'd created. And that's when the company was founded in 2002. And we did that in an unusual way. Rather than raising money as we could have done, we decided to grow the company, try to grow the company organically without external investment. It was our judgment at the time that this might be possible. So what we did was tap into those many millions of people using the free software. And really in many ways we pioneered the idea of crowdfunding for software. It wasn't even called crowdfunding at the time. That name didn't come along until much later. We did that by simply offering the people who loved the software the opportunity to buy a t-shirt. And we made hundreds of thousands of dollars selling t-shirts that said, "I love VNC." And that's really the initial seed funding for the company. And so we had people who didn't want another t-shirt. They simply said, "Do you want some money?" And they sent us checks, and we made a few $100,000 more, literally with people sending us money, not for shares, not for equity in the company, simply because we had something that they wanted, that they valued, that they wanted to continue in some way and be further developed and supported, which was the software that they'd been using for free. And together with some other sources of grant money, UK government grant money, that was really the seed funding for the company. And we've grown the company organically ever since without any external investment. I mean, the standard way of growing a company, you might start with the 3 Fs. People call it friends, family and fools. And really, I think this is a great way to start a company. Raise as much money as you can without giving too much of your company away, and grow the company and grow the value in the company. So that when you do perhaps need to get some external funds, that it's got some value there already. And I would recommend going as far as you can, provided you don't lose your window of opportunity. You've got to be able to always have sight on whether you need more investment, and if the investment is going to drive the growth in the business, then you have to get investment. But if you can grow your business a little bit more steadily, a little bit more organically, and control the rate that you grow in parallel to the investment that you've got, so you don't miss windows of opportunity. I think the business needs to look credible, but there's a difference between having a credible website and a credible product and a credible sales and marketing activity from people driving around in Porsches and having fancy offices and lots of funny stuff around the office. I think you can have quite a lean and mean operation, control your costs, and have a fabulous external brand. And that's in some ways what we did in the second phase of the company. We built on the great brand that we had. We became a professional organization, and people looked to us for absolutely first-rate products which were reliable, which had this great heritage, which continued to be precisely what people wanted. They were simple software. It's simple software that does exactly what it says on the tin, without bloat. And really to do that, rather than spending the money on the fripperies of what some people think business is, and not to listen to perceived wisdom. Perceived wisdom is you've got to have this, you've got to open your US offices, you've got to have a CTO, you've got to have a CFO, all of these things. Well, I think if you're a small business, you can find different ways of doing that. I still don't have a CTO. What I've got is 4 or 5 of them. So I've got bright people who contribute into the technical strategy of the company. And to me, having several people do that is better than having one. And we have meaningful discussions between us, and then we find a strategy between us. For us, the strategy was to have a commercial product within a couple of years. And that was really going to be the test of whether the business was going to survive and grow. So those early days of crowdfunding and free money and grants, and working for very little money, so investing in the business, putting sweat for equity, putting our effort back into the business. That really was for us only a period of a couple of years, and after that we had a commercial product which we started selling, and the business was going to succeed or fail on whether that commercial product sold, and it did. So day one we had people buying, and that just grew and grew and grew, and the product portfolio has grown ever since that, because we've reinvested a lot of money in R&D, so a huge amount of engineering and innovation goes on in this company. But I think if we hadn't had that success after those first 2 years, we may very well have given up and done something else. I think some people struggle on far too long in business. They have an idea, they think it's a great idea. For whatever reason, it doesn't work out. Maybe they haven't done their market research correctly. Maybe there isn't really a market need, it's just their own personal pet project. Or maybe the world's moved on. Maybe in those few years that they've been working, some other technologies come along and overtaken them. And if people aren't realistic about that, I think they can find themselves struggling on for years and years and years with no real prospect. And I think it's a shame that people aren't prepared to change course.